Hello everyone, this is Beastly Eel, and in today's video I wanted to talk about the first episode of Moon Knight. So in this episode, I will say this, all of the trailers were from this episode. Spoiler alert, I guess. So we won't know much what happens after this episode, mostly due to the fact that the trailer pretty much showed us everything that was happening in episode 1. So anyway, the episode starts with Steven going to work at a museum where he deals with, how do I put it, dealing with merchandise. So before he gets there, we see him in his home briefly, and he unhooks this chain on his leg, and then he checks the sand around his bed. Yes, I was not wrong in saying that, nor was I misspoke. He had sand all around his bed to make sure he didn't leave it. And then his door is like bolted shut in multiple ways, and there's tape on the door. So obviously, it was all put back to the way it was, and he left to go to work. So anyway, he's at work, and this girl is. We see him falling asleep a lot, which I find interesting. But anyway, that being said, so when we finally get him. My apologies. We finally get him into the museum. And in the museum, he is basically just a merchandise guy. He sells merchandise and that's it. His boss is kind of mean. So anyway, they're talking and everything else. And he tries to convince this girl on who the gods are and blah, blah, blah. And this little girl just doesn't care. So he gets yelled at by his boss saying that he's not a tour guide. He sells merchandise. So he gets all PO'd and just continues what he's doing. And then some woman comes up to him and says, "Why, hello." She goes, "I can't wait to see you on Friday for the best steak in town." And he has no idea what's going on. He's very confused at what's being said to him, and he's not quite sure why this woman's talking to him. But he's attracted to her, and he plays along. So she leaves, and his boss is like, "I can't believe you actually pulled the trigger." And he's like, "I didn't." She's like, "She came on to you?" And he goes, "Well, I guess." So anyway, we continue. So he goes that night. He goes to bed, chains himself up like he always does, because that's what all normal people do. He wakes up on the ground with what I think is his jaw dislocated, blood coming from it, and he snaps his jaw back into a place. And he's in a place he has no idea where the hell he is. So he starts looking around. He gets chased by gunmen. He now tries to hide. Gets into this big crowd of people, and we see Arthur Harrow in this crowd of people. Now, this Arthur Harrow is completely different from the comics. I will say that. I am not by any means mad about it. It's not like he is a major character that's changed everything in the MCU. No. So I'm not worried about this. So anyway, he is a god. Or he claims himself to be the god. So he's the messenger for the goddess of judgment. So she's the one who, in Egyptian mythology, is the one when you bring your heart into the underworld, and she weighs it on whether or not you were good or bad. So he's bringing it into the mortal realm to judge your life fully and see whether you are worth life or not, and ruin you to the end. So this guy goes up first. He does it. He survives. The scales on the guy's tattoo go up and down, up and down, up and down. And then they stay even, so he's balanced, so he lets him go. Then this old woman goes next, and the scales predict that she's an evil person. So I don't know fully what happens. I'm going to take a swing at it, or whatever you want to call it. That he then sucks the soul out of her because she's evil and doesn't deserve life anymore. So that's a thing. And he goes to do the same thing to Steven, who happens to be in the crowd. The reason why he does it to Steven is because to weed out who is not a follower, he tells them to kneel, and he realizes the only guy who didn't kneel right away is the one he's looking for. So he calls him forward and he wants the scarab. This scarab that he had in his pocket and he doesn't know where he got it from. So he tries to give it to him, but his body's not letting him. And he hears this voice in his head, "Don't you dare give him the scarab." And he has no idea what's going on. So this continues for a while, and then now he tries to run away because he can't give the scarab up no matter how hard he tries. And I mean, he tries. So the gunmen try to go after him, and he falls asleep, or kind of like passes out, wakes up, blood on his fist, all the gunmen dead, and everyone's just staring at him. And he runs away. He steals a cupcake truck and he starts driving away. So every time he gets himself into danger, so the guys are trying to smash into the truck, they're trying to shoot him, everything else, he kind of passes out, wakes up in a new location with a bunch of people dead. And on the final one, he wakes up in his bed like nothing happened, and he thinks it's the next day. He thinks it's Friday. So he gets excited and goes to the restaurant, and it turns out it was Sunday. And the woman's pissed at him that he left her there, and she's pissed off that he didn't, come see her, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, "What are you talking about? We said Friday at night." And she goes, "It's Sunday." And he goes, "I'm pretty sure the day after Thursday is Friday." And she goes, "Thank you for the calendar update. It's still Sunday." So he asks the waiter, and he tells him it's Sunday. He gets all depressed. And the reason why he finds out how late it is and everything else is because his fish is different. So I'm assuming his fish died and somebody replaced it. So anyway, we go back to his place, and he starts hallucinating all these different things on what's going on. He sees this giant deity type creature moving around, who for those of us who read the comics know who he is. It's Kanusha. I think that's how you pronounce the name. Kanusha? Kanisha. Kanusha. Kanusha. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's the god of the moon. Basically, all you need to know is the god of the moon. So he's seen multiple times, and Steven's freaking the hell out. He finds a phone in his apartment that he didn't know existed, and the person on the other end, because he calls him, is asking for Mark, and she's like, "Mark, what are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm not Mark." And she's like, "Mark, why is your accent? Why do you have an accent?" He's like, "I'm not Mark, I'm Steven." She goes, "This isn't funny." She hangs up the phone. Never answers him back, never calls him back. So he tries to go to work, and he can't right away because the elevator's not going to where it's supposed to, and he keeps seeing this creature trying to come after him. So anyway, he goes to work, finally. He kind of wakes up on the bus, and he gets off the bus, and Arthur Harrow is on the bus. So he gets out, my apologies. He gets into the museum. He tries to talk to the guard to not let a specific person in, and the guard's like, "It's a free museum. Anybody can come in." So his boss trying to talk to him. He basically tells him to shut the hell up, and that he needed a minute. He was explaining that you're doing inventory. Da, 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 da. So anyway, he tries to get away from the guy, and he goes looking for a guy that was on the bus, and it turns out that Arthur Harrow is in the museum and wants to judge him. And he has a bunch of guards with him, and so he goes to judge him, and he can't judge him because there's too much chaos in him, is how he states. So he leaves, runs away. Later that night, he is scanning all the merchandise, and now he's ready to leave, and there is a wolf creature trying to come after him. Now, when I saw this in the trailer, I thought it was a werewolf. I'm not as convinced that it's a werewolf. I think it's some undead wolf creature. Still could be an undead werewolf, but let's not mince words at this point. It's not exactly what I thought it was in the beginning. So he gets attacked by this creature. He gets into the bathroom, blocks the door, and Mark is trying to talk to him. So Mark is apparently an altered version of him. So in the comics, it's a multiple personality thing, and so Mark is trying to convince Steven to let Mark control the body so he can stay alive. So the creature's about mostly into the place when he finally lets him take over, and he starts to turn into what we know as the Moon Knight. But we don't see him fully transform when the creature jumps on top of him and tries to kill him. Well, we hear a lot of, so the camera goes away, and we hear a lot of fighting and everything else, and we see the dog try to escape, get pulled back in, and when we get the camera back inside, it is Moon Knight fully in his outfit, smashing the creature's face in until it's dead. And then the episode ends with him turning into the camera and walking into it. And that is how the first episode goes. So, a lot to unpack. One, and I already mentioned it, Arthur Harrow is not the same character as he was in the comics. He seems to be some sort of avatar for the goddess of, I don't want to say death necessarily. I want to say it's death, actually. The goddess of death, where she kind of weighs the souls. So he's basically the opposite of Moon Knight, which is interesting. So they're both avatars. One being her being the goddess of death, him being the god of the moon and resurrection. So definitely an interesting group there already. So we see the wolf creature there, who I still might be a werewolf, not positive. Could be just the dogs of Anubis. No, not Anubis. Anubis. Anyway, dog creatures that are in the underworld that went to attack him. So a lot is unknown still. So basically, we have to go by just who knows what's going to happen next. Mostly due to the fact that at least in a lot of the trailers, we had an idea. Like they kind of gave us a little snippets of a little bit of what the other episodes were. This one, in my opinion, is the first one where we actually only saw scenes from the first episode. So we now have no knowledge of what's going on next, and I have no idea what's going to happen. Obviously, Arthur Harrow is going to try to take the soul of the god of resurrection, I'm guessing, or attempt to, and that's how they fight. But other than that, no clue. Not even a single clue. So definitely excited about this. It was a great introduction to Moon Knight. I won't say it was a phenomenal episode, but definitely a great introduction to Moon Knight in general. That being said, let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, we only have, today and tomorrow, and then my 30-day challenge is done. Let me know in the comments how you liked it and everything else, but also hit the like button and subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated. Other than that, this is going to be BCL signing out. Have a great day.